Hello and welcome to the Typical Boro podcast. I'm your host, Steve Dixon, as always. Please could I ask you to keep subscribing to our YouTube channel. And if you're listening via other platforms, please rate and review. It's going really well. Thanks for what you've been doing. As always, you can listen to us on the Red Radio. Dave Roberts is on before us, spinning his discs. Once he stops spinning his discs, we are on 6 till 7, as per usual. So tune into the Red Radio. A little bit of podcast news before I introduce my main man. A little bit of podcast news, which is John Cutler. You may be wondering where John is, what he's been up to. Well, I've got some news. He's been found and he's well, and he's coming back to the podcast. And he's coming back next week. So the Typical Boro trio will be back from next week. So we'll have lots to discuss with John. He's been away, actually, John, since we beat QPR 4-1 and Luton Town 5-1. Since he's been missing, the record has been Middlesbrough played 19 games and won 5. So I think the reason for this slump in form is not just the players, it's not just Michael Carrick, it's Mr. John Cutler. So we'll have to have a few stern words with him next week when he's back. Thankfully, though, I do have on my screen the main man himself, Mr. Graham Bandy. All right, Graham?
All good. Ready to go. Yeah, nice to
Ready
have
to
John
go.
back as well. Fantastic. I see us going on an unbeaten run now.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. I think John holds the key to this. Might get him down the training ground during the week. But as per usual, mate, we're together discussing another Middlesbrough defeat. Yet again. Bristol City 2, Middlesbrough 1. Tommy Conway had done what he was hoping to do, which was score against his old club. And we're thinking at last, a little bit of reverse look for Boro. We're going to do something. But no, enter another Boro meme. George Earthy comes off the bench. 72 minutes, 82 minutes. Scores his first 2 goals for Bristol City in 25 games. And buries the Boro. While we do absolutely nothing about it. 3 changes were made before the game. In came Dale Fry, Dijksteel, and Bergzog. Out was Aylan, Edmondson, and Barlasser. But yet again, to no avail, Graham. Another defeat.
Another defeat. Rinse and repeat. Same old, same old. I mean, how many podcasts have we done now saying the same old thing?
Yeah.
I'll start with a positive, right? Here we go. Since the heat has been on Carrick, really seriously, he's tried to tweak things slightly where he spoke about connections and the distances, and he came out with that fantastic quote, the pitch is almost too big for us. So he looks like he's trying to be a little bit more compact. He tried that in the Watford game to no avail, but at least I could see he was trying something slightly different. So possibly he is learning in that respect. I thought we played slightly better against Bristol City. That was always going to be a tough game anyway. Let's make no bones about it. That is a hard place to go. They're pushing on playoffs. They're obviously in the playoffs now. After that victory against us, so that was always going to be a tricky fixture. So let's not read too much into the scoreline. But the performance was slightly better in terms of us being more compact. We looked a little bit more comfortably defensively. We were tighter as a unit. We seemed to be a bit more vocal, slightly more organised. Particularly first half, we got the goal, well worked goal. Iheanacho gets down the right. First time I've ever seen him run, to be honest. Managed to cut into the box, got a shot off. Tommy does what Tommy does. He's in the right place at the right time. A real fox in the box for us. Cheeky little header, 1-0. So you're thinking, right, okay, let's see it out. We did. We got to half time, 1-0 up, looking fairly, I wouldn't say comfortable, but there was a possibility for me, second half, for us to sit deep and pick them off on the counter if Carrick made substitutions. But as we all know, the game, again, for I don't know how many times this season, where we've had a lead and we've thrown it away, went away from us. And that was purely down to us running out of legs, their manager smelling the danger and thinking, let's make, a multitude of substitutions, which worked massively in their favour and completely against us. So what does Carrick do? He doesn't react. He lets Bristol City smother us, and it was a matter of time before they were going to score. Sadly, we couldn't hold out, purely down to the fact we were probably two things: incapable and absolutely drained. Because that first half onslaught, we did well to survive it, to be honest. Travers kept us in the game with some fantastic saves. Sadly, couldn't see it out. More defensive frailties. Young guy that came in on the right-hand side, got free, ball whipped across. Dijksteel slow to react. Ball comes in. Hackney's chased the ball rather than stuck with his man. Gets a tap in. Again,
it was a poor goal.
It was a poor goal, another joke goal. They'll look back at it and they'll think, Hackney, what you doing, mate? Why have you ran out to the ball? Just stay with your man. If he stays with his man, the guy doesn't get a shot off. Earthy can't score. Free kick, I thought it was a ridiculous... I know Carrick's come out and complained about it, saying it was a ridiculous decision. I thought it was probably a ridiculous manoeuvre by Iheanacho to come charging in and bundle him over.
Well, that's a point there, Graham. Was it a foul? Because I've got to be honest, if I was looking at it from the other side of the fence, from a Middlesbrough point of view, I'd probably want a free kick. I thought he did obstruct him. Yes, he looked for it and he went down easy, but it probably was a free kick. And Iheanacho didn't need to do what he done. He didn't need to be there.
At that point, the tails were up, the crowd were going for it, they could smell blood. There was no real need for Iheanacho to be actually in that area, to be honest. I know Carrick's actually changed it slightly and he's got players coming back. We're more of a rigid 4-4-2 now, which is kind of working in some respects. But I don't think there was a need for Iheanacho to be there. We need him up the field, really, to be honest. Anyway, that's gone now. So the free kick, you knew he's a good player. You knew he was going to get it over the wall. Standard, typical Boro meme. 1-1. They're smelling blood. You knew it was going to go in some way or shape or form. Hackney didn't react to his man again. And I would personally blame him for both goals, if I'm honest, if you're looking for a bit of blame culture. The guys
regarding the free kick
yeah.
game, Graham, from a goalkeeper's point of view, when the free kick's that close to you,
yeah,
it's very easy to get from that distance. It doesn't need a lot of power. You just need to get it up and down.
No,
it's very difficult to get across. I would want personally my defender. I'd have my wall set up, but I'd have a defender on the edge of the wall who would be almost running back before he's kicked it. So if he thinks it, he can run back and try and make a header. And also, if it comes back off the crossbar, or I get a hand to it and save it, and it comes back out. Yeah. The defender that's immediately ran back to try and cover would be there to clear.
Yeah.
And what you don't seem to see that much. It used to happen a while back where every team did it. They had the wall set up and they had the man on the end that used to try and run back on the line, and then before he took it, run back out again, type of thing. You don't seem to see that so much these days. It must be a change of tactics or what have you. But me personally, I would always have that because for that reason alone. And what was disappointing for me with the free kick was he done exactly that. He dipped it over the wall. But when he hit the ball, the Middlesbrough defence just stood like statues.
That's my point about Hackney. He was level with him. Smell the danger, smell the ball hitting the bar, work that out. Get
exactly that.
Get in front of your man, block him off if you have to. But he didn't. And again, slow to react. It's not just Hackney, it's every week. It's different defenders every week. So no matter what player we play, there's always going to be somebody else making the same mistake in a different part of the pitch or a different part of the defence. And it's tragic, really. We're just so naive. We're so youthful in our approach. It's like, we expect things not to happen rather than them happening. And it's poor. It's poor on our behalf. It really is. But yeah, 2-1. And then we made no attempt really to rescue that game or salvage anything from the winning position. Carrick's got to make subs. He's got to make subs about a second after they've made theirs to try and combat what they're doing, but he didn't. We left it to what, over 80 minutes. Iheanacho was blowing after 60. So was Conway because he's still finding his fitness. So he should have looked at substitutions. Probably the hour mark for me.
Well, that was the big talking point, wasn't it? I'm saying that was a big talking point on the night, and that social media blew up with one of the couple of tweets I put out on X about it during the game about the lack of subs, the lack of Carrick smelling the danger. It's like you're sitting there watching it, thinking you need to change this. I was thinking at half time, Iheanacho looked knackered, and then second half, he got put in down there, right down our right hand side.
Yeah.
and he couldn't get there. The ball was a bit too hard for him. And yet the Sky cameras panned in Iacho running back. I mean, he looked like an old man running back. He looked about 38 running back. It's like he was blown, and you're thinking, well, obviously he's going to take him off now. We can quite see his legs have gone. He's shattered. He's run his race. It's nearly an hour. Get them on. But no, he kept going. The pressure was coming. They were getting more shots on goal. I mean, they had 21 shots on goal, Bristol City, on the Friday night. 21 shots on goal. And this, you could see it coming. The pressure was getting ramped up, and you thought they're going to score shortly. And, it's not like you had no options on the bench. You got Finn Azaz sitting there. You've got Illan Jr.
I said at half time, I thought we could possibly pick them off, sit deep, hit Azaz in that 10. I know he doesn't play a 10 now because he's bombed Azaz out, but he's playing a 4-4-2. He's asking Iheanacho just to drop off slightly and just play slightly behind Conway, hopefully to play balls through to him. But there was a time where Azaz should have been on that pitch because that pitch looked massive. We could have picked him off, but he didn't opt for that. He just carried on doing the same old until the inevitable. And it was tragic, really. I mean, I praise him for the way he's tried to plug the gaps and possibly pull in the distances between players so players can't play balls through the lines. We do look a little bit more compact, a bit more resolute. There's a little bit more cohesion, a bit more communication. We're starting to see a few, I wouldn't say leaders, but players being a little bit more vocal in terms of telling other players what to do, where to play, where to stand in certain situations. But he should have spotted that. He should have got his Azaz on, in my opinion. And I think we could have possibly picked them off because Iheanacho we were a man down. He was pulling a caravan, mate. Honestly, he was so bad. And he had to come off. He would have admitted himself. He just says, get me off. I'm absolutely blowing here. Too many sangrias in Sevilla.
You mentioned the size of the pitch and those gaps all over the place. And you could see the game was getting stretched. In the Bristol City manager, and he's made 4 subs in a couple of minutes. He made 3 straight away. Then he brought on Naki Wells a couple of minutes later and made 4 subs. Now you'd think even just from a fitness perspective, they've got 4 players coming on with fresh legs. You'd think even just to even the fitness levels up, that would have been alarm bells ringing, not just to Michael Carrick, but to the stooges sitting behind him. Because did you see, I don't know if you've seen it, towards the end of the game, there was a few minutes to go, the camera panned to Middlesbrough's bench. We're 2-1 down, and the camera panned to Middlesbrough's bench. Michael Carrick was standing with his hands in his pockets. And the stooges behind, Woodgate, Ledbetter, and the other coaches were sitting. Honest to God, you'd think they were sitting on the front row of a funeral in the church. There wasn't a word. None of them were just, there was no anger going. There was no hand movements. They were just sitting there, like they were accepting defeat. I don't want to see that from my coaching staff. I want to see them up. I want to see them. It was appalling. I don't know if any Middlesbrough fans noticed that. If you didn't go back and rewatch the game, you'll see they're just sitting there, nothing happening at all.
I think everybody notices it, mate. That's what's so enraging about it all, and it's quite sad because we don't actually know what these guys do. Like you say, they sat there like stooges. It'd be nice if we had a bit more information about what their roles are during match day, because, like you say, they just sit there and they don't communicate. They don't offer anything. The Carrick just looks a forlorn figure. He has done for months now. Just stood there, sort of stroking his beard, working out what the next plan of action is. But there's no action. That's the sad thing about it. So it was inevitable what would happen. The game would just sort of creep away from us, and we offered nothing because the substitution of Azaz was made on 81. Was it 82? It's far too late. You can't get in the game.
83 was Azaz. Then he brought on the more back. He brought on Marcus Force. Marcus Force on 88 minutes.
There's no point. You're not going to do anything. The game was won.
Our friend Dom Shaw from the Northern Echo was interviewed Carrick after the game, and he was asked why he didn't make any substitutions earlier. And Michael Carrick's response was, "We're always thinking how we can influence the game. I didn't think they were really hurting us in the second half, and we were defending well as a team and cutting off spaces."
I agree with him with the defensive situation. We were.
He says, listen. They are decisions I make or don't make. If it goes to plan and we win the game, it's a good decision. When it doesn't, people question that, and I understand that. There are loads of reasons why I didn't make the subs. There are loads of reasons for each decision we make. Making those decisions is all part of the job. It's the role. I wouldn't say it's difficult. It's my job to try and make the right decisions. I understand I'll probably get questioned tonight for not doing it, and then we lose the game. Well, look at he was a bit tetchy on BBC Tees as well with Mark Drury when Mark Drury sort of asked a similar question.
Yeah.
So to me, he obviously he knows he's made a mistake. Just it would be refreshing to come out and say, with hindsight, yeah, maybe I should have made subs because the way the game ended up with Bristol City on the front foot, us penned in, they had more energy. They were getting in and around, we were getting shots off the goal. I mean, I don't know what his reason. He says there's loads of reasons why he wouldn't make the substitutions.
I don't know any of the reasons because he's not.
Well, that's right. But you've got Illan Jr. sitting on the bench, who has just scored a goal in the Champions League a couple of weeks ago, sitting on the bench, desperate to get on the pitch to make an impact. He's had an indifferent start since he came to the club. You've got Finn Azaz, who was Player of the Month in the Championship in November, doing well in December, who's out of form, probably desperate to get back in the team. You've got Marcus Force, fresh legs. He could have come on. You could have made all three and put them on and just got us, giving us a threat, an outball further up the pitch. But just come out and accept that the decisions you made didn't work and they were poor. Own it.
We don't have an outball now, sadly. It's so bitty and littered up front with bad play. It's just individuals trying their own tricks. You've got Bergzog on the left-hand side, another inverted winger, just coming in on his right foot all the time. I admire the fact that he actually runs at players and tries to take them on. But it'd be nice to see him go on the outside for a change because he's becoming predictable. We've got Whittaker, who's the same. He's on the right-hand side, comes in on his left foot, tries to get shots off. If you're a fullback, you just show them inside and block them off. It's quite simple, really. And like you spoke earlier about the amount of shots they had and balls into the box. You don't have to be Pep Guardiola to combat Middlesbrough because you just know if you put that ball in the box 15 times, we're gonna chuck 5 or 6 in, 100%. Thankfully, Travers. I'm going to again try and be positive. I think we might have signed a decent keeper there. He's had a lot of shots against him and he's made some fine saves. He got down well for a really strong speculative shot, which was going right in the bottom corner second half, and he got down well and palmed it with his left hand, put it away for a corner.
He was man of the match for Middlesbrough for me.
Yeah, I think he was for me as well. What I do like, Dicko, we talk about players not being vocal. He was vocal. He was dishing out some serious abuse to his defenders for not getting out and not closing down. He was just annoyed at the amount of shots that were coming in at him from different angles. So I think we might have signed a good one there. So I'm positive.
Well, I did say, Graham, when we signed him, that it's a big upgrade for me and he's a good goalkeeper because I had seen him play before. I can see from a goalkeeping perspective why he's not fancied at Bournemouth because he's not great with his feet. He tends to thump it. When he gets put under pressure, and that's why Kepa's playing ahead of him at Bournemouth. Yeah. In terms of goalkeeping ability, I think Travers is the better goalkeeper out of the two, but Kepa is better with his feet. And their manager, the way Bournemouth play, wants the ball from the back, playing out quickly. So that's why he's gone with Kepa. But for a Championship goalkeeper, Middlesbrough have got probably as good as anything in the league in goal at the moment. It's a shame for him that he's come in at a difficult time, where there's a lot of shots on him and the defence is rotating, the different players in front of him he's got to get used to. But I think overall, yes, he's made a couple of mistakes, but overall, coming into a difficult situation, I think he's starting to prove that he's a good goalkeeper.
I think you're spot on. He made 2 howlers, in my opinion, at Sheffield United, but he's not let that affect him. He's come back quite strong, actually, and he looks quite a commanding figure. He's not massive in stature, but he's got something about him. He's got bravado, and I think that's important. He can dish it out to his back 3, his back 4, his back 5, whatever. But I'm quite comfortable with him. I don't see too many problems. So that is, I mean, I'm already looking forward to next season. Now, this season for me is done and dusted. We could talk about that a bit later if you want. But
well, 100%.
I think we've got the first bone in the spine, so to speak. We've got a keeper, right? So keep him happy. Make sure he's in goal every single week. So we've got a starting point, and it's now trying to put them little pieces together to try and formulate a team to hit the ground running next season. Because this season, there's no point in chasing a dream which isn't going to happen. It's long gone. There's so many teams now in that playoff spot that are better than us. So we may as well
here's one for you, Graham. Here's one for you, Graham. It looks like we're going to stick with Michael Carrick. Steve Gibson seems to have made his decision.
Yeah.
Whether you agree with that or not, or I agree with it or not, that seems to be what he's going to do.
Well.
But if we're moving forward, just say we're going to keep Michael Carrick till the end of the season and reevaluate. Yeah. Michael Carrick, you're Michael Carrick now. What do you do from now to the end of the season? Do you go back to what you believe in and just go with it and try to play your philosophy, the beautiful game? Or because at the moment, I don't think he knows what to do. We're a bit of in between. We're playing a lot of long balls. He's changed his tactics to 4-3-3, 4-4-2. He's sat in against Bristol City. We could play next week, and he could want to come out again and play on the front foot. For me, I think he needs to go one way or the other. But to me, Michael Carrick, he's just changed. It's like, I'll give you an analogy, Graham. Michael Carrick's like one of your old girlfriends. It's like Michael Carrick, he's new to you. He comes in. You love the way he looks. You love what he says. You've got the same interests. You've got the same ideas. You're thinking, this is absolutely great, this. And it's going along wonderfully well with his girlfriend. But then as it's going along, she starts coming out with some bizarre things, starts changing the way things that you do together changes. And you're thinking, this is starting to change a little bit. Yeah, but, we'll go with it. And then our looks start to change and just starts piling the weight on and getting bigger and bigger. And you're thinking to yourself, well, I still, it's just a spell. Things will change. She'll change. Our personality will change back to the person that I used to know. And every week you're giving her this chance to go back to the girl that you fell in love with. But every weekend you catch her with a hand in the cookie jar. And you're thinking, every week it's the same, her hand's in the cookie jar. This isn't getting any better. I'll give her another week to see if she changes. I'll talk to her. I'll give her more time. But again, the hand's in the cookie jar. Well, eventually you've got to shut that cookie jar, turn the lid and shut it and put the cookie jar away and move on to something different. And that's the way I feel about Michael Carrick. It's like, I loved what you done when you first came. I loved what you used to say. I like your philosophy. I used to like to watch what you're doing. But now, when I listen to you, I'm bored. Now, when I look at you, I don't believe in you. I don't think we've got anything in common anymore. And I just think you don't know what you want. You don't know what you're wanting to do with this team. I don't know what your tactics are anymore. I don't think he knows his best team. And it's almost time for me, for Steve Gibson to put the cookie jar on Michael Carrick and move on to something else.
It's certainly an interesting analogy. I mean, if you're talking about cookie jars, I think you need to keep it away from Inacho, to be fair. But, I mean, he's got this ethos, which for me is purist. I enjoy it. I like the football that we have played. In fact, I've seen some of the best football we've ever played under Michael Carrick. That's probably one of the reasons I'm quite relieved and quietly pleased that he's still here, because I still believe that we can get back to that level of professionalism and offensive ability, which we had. We were so potent at one stage, but that is also down to having bloody good players. Akpom, Rodgers, Lath. They're the game changers. They're the difference. We don't have any of them now. We've got a team of mediocrity. It's not mediocre when Dork's in the team, because he gives us that outball. He is the outball to the whole team. He's the game changer. He's the difference. We don't have that at the moment. So you've got to probably ride with him until the end of the season and give him opportunity to try and turn things round. The only danger there is if we do turn things round when Dork reappears, because there's no doubt he is quality. He will make a difference the minute he comes back, 100%. But he's a lone player, so he'll be gone. And then we start again.
The problem is, by the time Dork comes back, it's too late. It's too late now. It's too late now. The moment Steve Gibson decided to sell Latte Lat was the moment the season died. Because let's be honest, if Latte Lat and Dork are playing at Bristol, I think we'll probably get something from the game.
100%.
We could possibly win the game. And it's just soon as we decided to cash in on Latte Lat, that was Middlesbrough's ambition gone for the season. I understand from a financial point of view, it had to happen.
Did
It
it
didn't
though?
have to happen. It didn't have to happen. Sorry, we could have done it in the summer, but
Could have happened in the summer.
Well, that's right. Yeah.
It's
Well, that's
derailed
my
our season completely, in my opinion. I'm still
I
angry
agree with
about
that. I agree with that. Yeah, but that was the moment Steve Gibson. See, this is what I don't understand. Steve Gibson has been lauded and applauded all summer for his ambition, and I was one of them that applauded it because he spent money on good players, on big wages, and got them to the football club. In Middlesbrough at the start of the season, let's be honest, everybody would have been disappointed if we're outside the top 4 or 5. Really disappointed,
Yeah.
right? So that was his ambition. It was shown there. So when you get to January and you sell your best player, where's that ambition gone? Within a few months, where's it gone? Because now, since we've sold that Lat, we've dropped like a stone. We're not even going to make the playoffs, which was the bare minimum, to make the playoffs. And let's be honest, if we made the playoffs with that Lat and we had Doak back fit in the squad we've got now, there's a real opportunity there, whether we deserve to or not. There's a real opportunity there to nick ourselves back to the Premier League. So for me, as much as I lauded and applauded Steve Gibson in the summer, I've got to question his ambition now as the season's progressed.
Yeah, he's caught between a rock and a hard place in terms of keeping the club sustainable, in terms of bringing in as much money to keep us solvent. I mean, he's pumped another 12, 14 million in of his own money, this last season. And he'll probably be doing the same this season. But I don't think we've ever had so much money, have we, in terms of bringing in finances
Exactly.
for players that we've sold? We always seem to be the ones going to with the begging ball. There's other teams above us, surely, with not as much money, who are
100%.
outperforming us. We seem to be the pleading poverty every single season. When will that eventually stop? It's been years since we've been out of the Premier League. Parachute payments dried up years ago. And we seem to be
financially, we're in the best position we've been for a good few seasons. Financially, the wage bills come down, the money we've made off players. Financially, in a great position. Here's one for you, Graham. Because before I forget, I wanted to put this point to you.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the season's dead. We're going to have to win for Middlesbrough to make the playoffs. I was looking at the statistics. We're probably going to have to win 9, possibly 10 out of the last 13 games to make the playoffs. Just to make to make 72 points ish. We're going to have to win probably 9 or 10 games. That's not going to happen. Last season we actually had a great run where I think we won 7 or 8 games out of the last 13 and drew a couple and we'll come 8th. I don't even think we'll do that. So for me, the season's done and dusted. So I was moving my thoughts to the summer, and I think we've got this Latte Lat 22 million euros burning a hole. Michael Carrick. If we come mid-table, I would probably change Michael Carrick. In fact, I would change Michael Carrick. So I'm going for a new manager in the summer, and I've got 22 million Latte Lat money sitting there. Now, we've also got clubs massively interested in Hayden Hackney. We've got clubs massively interested in Rav Vandenberg. I would be tempted to cash in on Rav Vandenberg if we've got a decent offer, because I think he's been very average this season, and if we can get 10 to 15 million for him, Hayden Hackney
likes to fry as well.
Hayden Hackney Hayden Hackney's had clubs after him for 15 million in January. Although I know he's a good player. If you cash in Hayden Hackney and you cash in Rav Vandenberg, you're sitting there with a £50 million war chest in the summer. Now, if you're looking to appoint a new manager from abroad or a real proven manager in this country, and you say, come to Middlesbrough Football Club, we've got a £50 million war chest, but you can have 30 million of it to spend on players. You can get a lot of talent to the Championship for 30 odd million pounds. If you think like Tommy Conway, for example, for 4 million, and people like that, Riley McGree, who were brought in for 4 million, people of that sort of ilk. If you've got 30 odd million pounds to spend, and you can bring in 7 or 8 of those players to attach to what we've got with a new manager, that would be exciting for me moving into the summer. That would be a reason why I would spend my money on another season ticket moving into the summer, because we'll be going in a different direction, showing ambition with money to spend. But I think it's going to be a hard sell for Steve Gibson, if we come mid-table, we'll keep Michael Carrick and we just rinse and repeat. You know, so
I think he's looking for a reaction now. He's obviously he's got to have spoken with him and said, "Look, Michael, this ain't great, is it, pal? Let's see where we're at the end of the season." He owes him. I think he owes him a degree of loyalty somehow. Hence the stay of execution. So he probably persists with him till the end of the season. I don't think he's going to be knee-jerk. Even if we get battered at Stoke, I still don't think he'll react. He'll look at this season as being one of consolidation now. We've probably got enough points in the bank to stay up. I mean, that's probably the first time it's ever been mentioned, but what's the mark of 50 points to stay up?
Yeah, we're not.
2 wins.
I can't believe we're even saying it.
No, I'm saying it in jest. I've gone from being we're pushing top 2 to just surviving. That's how bad the season is. It's a total car crash. It really is. Complete write-off. It's been a joke.
On what I've just said regarding the summer, cashing in on a couple. No, I'm saying what I said, cashing in on a couple of assets to go with a lot of your money.
Yeah.
In bringing in a new manager with a war chest, would that excite you to go down that route, or would you rather be more conservative?
No, it would massively excite me because I'm stagnating as a fan. I'm just turning up to the Riverside out of duty. You kind of know what's going to happen. So Gibson's probably thinking the same. In all fairness, he's a fan as well. He's annoyed as anybody. I don't envy him. I don't envy the decisions he has to make, but he's gone with it. He said to Carrick, "Look, you're the man." He's backed him. And I think he'll back him till the end of the season. But he's 100% looking for a reaction. He's looking for a spark. But you're not going to get a spark with this squad. The squad's mediocre. It wasn't the start of the season because we were full of hope. We're full of optimism. We've lost our key player. I go back to Lath. He was integral to everything good we did. It was a bit like having Akpom. For instance, pressing, right? His press was so aggressive, it did keep teams back. He was the trigger, and then the other wingers go and press. It stops teams coming at us. We don't have that now. We're just able to invite teams. There's no mobility up front. None at all.
I'm sure
we just walk into our half pretty much, and that's when we're under serious pressure. So he's got to alleviate that somehow. He's obviously, I mentioned the keeper. That's a good starting point. So if we're talking about building, let's say, for instance, you go with my thought that Carrick's going to be here for the start of next season, provided that we get a reaction this season. Because if we finish the season strongly, he'll probably have a case to say, look, we're going to go with Michael again, because he's got to show a little bit of loyalty, a little bit of faith. If he can turn it round, if results continue, then he's gone. He's long gone. I mean, I'm sure there's a list now, if I'm honest, waiting in the wings. I'm sure managers who are available have probably been tapped up in some sense to say, look, just keep tabs. We might come for you in the summer.
The big problem again, that though, Graham, is we've got 5 loan players again who are going to disappear in the summer. Starting with the goalkeeper, you know, it's like
we have to scrub that. No, he's got to be the first signing because he showed signs that he's going to be a good performer for us. He obviously wants to be. He shows that he cares. You know, he's one that I would say, yeah, let's stick by him. Let's get him on a contract. I'm sure we'll get him on a decent fee. If he's not,
I just don't see it happening. I think he'll go back to Bournemouth after having a good spell with Middlesbrough, reputation enhanced, and Middlesbrough will go with Sol Bryn when he's back fit. You know, I just don't see it happening. But
when's he going to be fit?
Well, that's it. That's it. And the injury that he's had can come back again quite quickly when it's your shoulder. I know Nick Pope at Newcastle. He's had problems with his shoulder. That's come out a couple of times in his career. And Nick Pope's probably never going to be the same again now. So it's a difficult one for a goalkeeper to have. Middlesbrough should always have that in the back thoughts that, you know, even though Sol Bryn will come back and obviously hopefully go on and have a great career with Middlesbrough, that's always going to be a problem for him. It's a difficult one for a goalkeeper.
I thought Sol Bryn was a breath of fresh air. I thought he was excellent.
He was, yeah. He was.
Devastating when he got injured because he was brilliant. You know, he was as good as Travers, but we can't rely on his fitness. We've got to act now. So if I was Carrick and I was being given a stay of execution, I'd be putting the groundwork in now to start the next season and start getting players, you know, on pre-contract. So I just tap them up and say, look, we'll be in for you in the summer. You're going to be my number one. You're going to start the season for me. That's what we've got to start doing now because this season's done and dusted. It's written off.
But that's a decision there, what you've said there, that's going to prove difficult because if Middlesbrough go to Stoke and get beat and then the form doesn't improve, is Michael Carrick going to be there? Because there's rumours behind the scenes that there's people in high positions at Middlesbrough Football Club that would have pushed the button last week
100%.
when Middlesbrough lost to Watford, and it's Steve Gibson's loyalty to Michael Carrick as to why he's been given a bit longer and a bit more time to put things right. So if that doesn't improve,
we're surmising either. We can only comment on what we're seeing now, and he's in a job. He's been given a task to turn our form around. Carrick said he's confident that he can turn it around. He's done it before, but he's done it with better players. The players he's got now they're going to throw him under the bus, and they are. He's protecting his players too much. They're so soft-centered. It's untrue. It's embarrassing, really, how they're allowing results to happen. I think that can be turned quickly if they look a little bit more assured and comfortable in games, but they're not. They're too willing and accepting to be rolled over, and it's not on. So it's a balance between bad management and bad players, and it's the recipe for disaster at the moment. But like you say, he's proved that he can turn it round, but that only happens when you have good players, and we are missing far too many good players. I said the other week that the team against Watford, it looked like it'd been scribbled together on the back of a fag packet, an hour before the game, and it turned out to be the case because it was just a dishevelled mess. It was garbage. The game was terrible, but I did alleviate that it was a slight improvement at Bristol City. So he's got the players in. He's asked them, to perform slightly different roles. We do look a little bit more rigid, a bit more compact. The 4-4-2 seems to be the way forward for him now in terms of us not leaking as many goals, yet we're still leaking goals. But that, which we've talked about, is down to rank bad play, players switching off. The demands on each other are so poor. There's nobody in that team dishing out a bollocking for bad play.
Unfortunately, though, that's one thing that's not going to change with Middlesbrough. We haven't got the leaders. We haven't got it. We're going to have to try and muddle our way through the end of the season without that by beating teams with talent, with maverick players that we've got, with moments of brilliance. That's the way we're going to have to muddle our way through the end of the season. It's not going to happen through leadership qualities. It's not going to happen through good defending, because we've proven time and time again we can't do it. I mean, that is, as I say, that the stats are damning. We all know the stats now. We'll go through them. They pop up every week, new ones. I mean, that one against Bristol City, as I say, that was the 8th time this season Middlesbrough have taken the lead and lost. 8 times we've taken the lead and lost the game. It's great.
It's a brilliant point you make, and that comes down to leadership. Once you score, I talked about that cooling off period where you score and you have 5 minutes to galvanise and say, right, this team isn't going to come back at us. We're going to make sure we snuff them out. Yeah, we're too accommodating. We allow teams to impose themselves on us. It's easy for the opposition manager. Just press them, hit them hard, get balls in the box. They don't react quick enough. They're too slow. They're too lethargic. They're too lackadaisical. That comes from the manager as well. It's got to. He's uninspiring. I don't see him as a massive motivator. I see him as a good coach in terms of how he played the game and how he wants the game to be played, but I don't see him as a man manager. He's far too protective of his players. I agree with the fact that you shouldn't be hanging your players out in public, but I'm not quite sure what he's saying to them behind closed doors. I'm not quite sure it's enough to scare them into not making mistakes. We're too easy targets, really, for opposition, and we're so soft. And it goes back again to having a leader. Look at, for instance, McLaren when he come in. Southgate, there's your leader. There's your club leader, not just on the pitch, off the pitch. Brian Robson, Nigel Pearson, horrible, but nobody wants to play against Nigel Pearson, club captain, club leader. Who have we got?
But it's the old analogy from managers of days gone by. They might be called dinosaurs these days, but they're not. They knew what they're talking about. The managers of the past, where you build from the back. You get a solid foundation, going back to Brian Clough for Nottingham Forest, back-to-back European Cups. He built from the back, with Peter Shilton being his main signing. The best goalkeeper in the world came in to stop that, to stop the goals going in. He bought Larry Lloyd, Kenny Burns. He built from the back. Viv Anderson. He had a solid foundation in place, and then as he progressed, he brought in the Mavericks, and he brought in the Trevor Francis up front and people like that to go and win the games and score the goals. You mentioned Steve McLaren doing that, bringing in Gareth Southgate. Same reason, just to have a foundation, to have a leader. Brian Robson done it with Nigel Pearson.
That's what I'm saying,
key signing. You've got to start. You've got to start with a foundation.
Every successful Middlesbrough side, Dicko, has started with a spine and a leader at the back. Go back to Jack Clark, Stuart Bourne, Bruce Rioch, Tony Mowbray. The comparisons are there. They're there right in front of you, but we don't have one. I don't know whether it's going to be Dale Fry. I don't know whether it's going to be Rab Vandenberg. They're still kids. They can't lead. They're not vocal enough. They're not strong enough in mind. Physically as well. They're just weak. But that's systemic of the whole defence for me. So I would chase a lot of them if you can get anything for them.
We'll press on, Graham. We'll press on. We'll move ahead to looking at Stoke and Derby coming up, and a little bit of a disagreement me and you had on X, which we'll talk about. But before that, I just want to plug the typical Boro prize draw. I know I've said we'll do a prize draw every month, thanks to Midas Cladding from Middlesbrough, who sponsor this podcast. Now, we haven't had one in February. Don't worry, I haven't forgot about you. It's going to happen. What we're going to do is we're going to have a February, March prize draw. I've been waiting for something to happen of interest regarding Middlesbrough to bring something out, something I can, they'll be interested in purchasing. And they've just brought out, you've probably seen on the club website, the 90s retro range from the 92 season, I think it was, which Middlesbrough had that kit for a couple of seasons because back in the day, it didn't change the strip every season. So they brought out the retro range, which is the ICI strip, which you'll remember, and they had it in red, blue, and white. And they brought the retro range out in red with John Henry, number 7 on the back, in the white away kit with Wilkinson, number 9, in the third kit with Hignett, number 8 on the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give all 3 away. So what you can do, I'm going to put something on the socials in the next few days, and we'll plug it again on next week's podcast. So just keep looking, and all you'll have to do is follow the Typical Boro podcast on X and retweet the prize tweet that goes out over the next few days or whenever we put it out. Just keep looking on the socials, and there'll be 3 winners. One will win the red kit, one will win the white kit, one will win the blue kit, in whatever size fits you. So there you go. So don't panic. February and March, prize draws in place. Right, we'll move on to Stoke. Stoke on Tuesday night's got me thinking, Bandy. It reminds me of Tony Mowbray going to Barnsley under severe pressure, his Middlesbrough manager, and walking out at Barnsley past the thousands of Boro fans in the way end.
You're going to say the away tunnel, aren't you?
Yeah, and then he was going back out the way tunnel at half time. I think Middlesbrough were 3-0 down to Barnsley. He was getting absolute pelt, as was Tony Mowbray, and that's a proper Boro legend that had a pretty big love from the fan base, but it had got so bad that it had stretched relationships, shall we say, and he got pelted. I think Middlesbrough went down on the day 3-2. He has to go back off the pitch after another defeat.
That season, Dicko.
Pelters again. Go on, Graham, go on.
The parallel between that season and the current season is quite frightening, really, in terms of us playing beautiful football to start with and then getting completely found out defensively.
Yeah.
So the vanity project soon wears off. So I would say something like vanity is lesser than sanity, if that makes sense. Protect your sanity by playing less vanity, does that make sense? Yeah.
Don't ask me. I was giving analogies on girlfriends before, so I've got no idea.
What I'm trying to say is sometimes the vanity project has to be sacrificed for your own sanity. I think that's what Carrick's going. That's what Carrick's going through at the moment. He's got to sometimes hold his hands up and say, "Look, this pretty football isn't working. It did for a period of time, but we've lost key players. Some players are way off form. Let's try and protect what we've currently got and just be a bit more solid, a bit more rugged, a bit more horrible." Like I say, he's tried to switch it with a 4-4-2 to sort of alleviate pressure and try and make us a bit more compact, but he's trying to find that balance. But going back to Mowbray, that was horrendous. It was terrible to see. I was there. It was garbage. But my question for you, Graham, is think of the comparisons. Think of where the tunnel is at Stoke. We're going to have 3,500 Boro fans there on the night. The tickets are just about sold out. Great support going down. Yeah. So
The question for you is, Graham, can Middlesbrough do it on a cold night, Tuesday night in Stoke? Can they do it? This is the question. And is Michael Carrick going to become the next Tony Mowbray? That's my fear. That's my fear.
Predictable question with a great quote. You know, the old Stoke on a wet Tuesday night about yes, we can. Yes, we can. Why can we? Because I think there's slow signs of recovery, and he's trying to change something. However, it's all dependent on what we have up front and how switched on the players are at the back. Yeah, we can do it. We can. I thought at half time at Bristol, we rode our luck, but that was to be expected. And I thought we looked slightly better, only slightly. But I thought it was enough to see out the second half if we were a little bit more streetwise. But sadly, we weren't. So I'm saying this more in hope rather than reality. But yeah, it's possible to go there and nick a 1-0 win. We've got to start somewhere, haven't we? We have to.
Well, Stoke got beat yesterday. They got beat off Norwich away from home. But before that, they'd only had 2 defeats in the previous 9 games. So going into the game, Stoke are in better form than Middlesbrough for sure. It's a away game. It's a difficult place to go. It's a type of fixture where you'd normally be saying, if Middlesbrough were say sitting 6th now in the league, we'll take a point and move on. But we're in a position now where it's got to be win-win-win.
Yeah.
And after Stoke, we then play Derby County at home, who've got no wins in the last 12 in all competition for the return of Matt Clark. The meme is just taking place before our very eyes. Matt Clark, you know, it's like we've got to go out to Stoke and win. We've got to then back it up against Derby at home and win. We're in a situation now where it's got to be that way. Just to keep fans thinking that the season's still alive. Because if you don't go to Stoke and win, can you imagine what the atmosphere is going to be like at the Riverside against Derby at home?
I know I've said that Gibson would probably stick by him till the end of the season, but a defeat at Stoke and a defeat at home to Derby might force him to have a rethink and, you know, rip it all up and try and start again somehow. We are capable of going to Stoke. There's a worry there. Obviously, Mark Robbins is manager as well, and he's had Carrick in his pocket for God knows how many games now.
I just remembered Mark Robbins.
Yeah,
I think I texted you that the other day. Yeah.
But he's obviously, so he'll know how to play us. So it's up to Carrick now to show what he's made of. If he wants to come out fighting and say that he can turn it round, then brilliant. That's what we want to hear. But we've got to see the evidence on the pitch. So I'm going to be hopeful and say we could, you know, in adversity, we could get a result there. Why not? We've got to believe that we can. We can't keep watching the same old nonsense at the back. We've got to be switched on in one of these games to get us over the line, and we have to have a starting platform. So that could be it. You know, in typical Boro fashion, where we expect to get rolled over, we might actually go there and pinch that. Derby at home, again, it's a totally different game. Matt Clark coming back, you say, he'll probably have a game of his life, play like Beckenbauer, and then we'll all go, why didn't we keep him? Which I thought we should have anyway. But Derby poor. They're in a relegation battle. But in saying that, we're not far from them. They're beaten at home. They have to be. You know, we peppered their goal at Pride Park early in the season, but we gifted them a goal on the counter, and Isaiah Jones made a horrendous back pass from his own half. So
that was his only assist. That was his only assist, wasn't it?
He fell away badly at Boro. He's best off at another club, I think. But yeah, there's got to be 6 points, but there's a possibility of 4.
How would you approach the Stoke game, Graham? What would your if you were Michael Carrick, what would your formation be? What would more or less be your side if you're picking it now?
I'd stick with the 4, and I'd try and take the positives from the Bristol game. And I've mentioned them numerous times on this pod today that we will sit in, be compact, be organised, be disciplined, pick up your runners. There's a propensity to drop Azaz back into the team in replacement of Iheanacho and just play him. I know we've gone 4-4-2, but we could switch Azaz into that just slightly withdrawn striker role and just push Tommy up just off him a little bit, maybe 10, 15 yards. Get them to play together and connect. Make sure that Hackney and Morris are solid. Hackney doesn't go roving forward and leave Morris exposed. Just be a little bit more assured, a bit more streetwise. Be switched on because they're at home. They're going to come at us. They're not a bad side now. They proved that in the cup.
Does that suit this Middlesbrough team though, Graham? We've mentioned they've got no leaders. They've mentioned we've got poor defenders. We've mentioned we've got a soft centre. The reverse option to that would be, listen, we're not tough enough. We're not streetwise enough. We can't defend. We'll revert back to the Cavalier approach and we'll go, listen, we'll put Giles in at fullback, Dyche in at fullback. We'll have Hackney pushing on. We'll have Azaz in the hole. We'll put two wide men, whether it be Bergzog, Illan Jr. or Whittaker wide, Tommy Conway up front or Iniacho up front. And we just get at them and go because, like I said before, we're at the stage now where we've got 13 cup finals. We need to win about 9 or 10 of them just to have any opportunity at all of finishing 6th. So for me, if I'm an away fan going to Stoke on Tuesday night, I would rather we had a pop and had a go. And if it wasn't good enough, it wasn't good enough, rather than sort of go down to like another 1-0 defeat with Middlesbrough sitting in, taking pressure off Stoke and get beat 1-0. I'd rather see we just be back to the old Michael Carrick Cavalier and have a pop for the last 13 games. But it's which way do you twist?
I think going Cavalier would just play into their hands. We've tried that when Robbins was manager at Coventry and it didn't work. They picked us off comfortably. Albeit they had probably better players then, quality players, but they don't have that now. But it's the same formula. If we go Cavalier, they'll just pick us off comfortably.
That's why I really have a problem with this Middlesbrough side. I have a huge problem with it. It's so frustrating because you feel damned if you do and damned if you don't. Because, like you just said, if we go Cavalier at the moment for whatever reason, we'll still end up finding a way to lose, whether it's an individual error, a goalkeeping error. We'll still find a way to lose the game when we're Cavalier. Yet when we sit in and try to defend and be a bit more solid, it doesn't seem to suit the squad because we haven't got players that are comfortable at defending, sitting in. We haven't got any leaders. We haven't got any people that dig in, calling each other out on the pitch. So I feel like what I'm trying to say is I feel like we can't win, whichever way we do it.
You've asked me the impossible question because the personnel we have proved over the course of the season so far they're not good enough. So whichever formula system we play isn't working. I'm just trying to pick out positives where I think we could possibly alleviate pressure and nick a goal. Nick a goal is probably the only way we can play at the moment because we don't have that potency up front. We don't have Dork. We don't have Lath. We don't have that dynamism. We don't have that mobility. So we're having to rely on a guy who pulls trucks in Iniacho. We've got two inverted wingers who come inside all the time, can't get past the fullbacks. If I was Tommy Conway, I'd be tearing my hair out. It's amazing he actually got a goal at Bristol. That's why I like him, because he found that opportune moment and scored. But if you're a
Bernie Slaven goal, that Bandy was a Bernie Slaven finish.
Fox in the box, like I said.
Yeah.
But if you've got two inverted wingers as your supply line, it's a nightmare for him because his best form for Boro was when Dork was playing on that right-hand side. He was pinging balls across, beating his man, hitting that front post. Conway was there. They had that telepathy. We don't have that. It's just so littered up front now. It's just individualism, which is a massive worry because there's no link-up at all. So that's why if we go Cavalier, we've got nothing to go Cavalier with, if that makes sense. Because we're not going to be able to link up. They're just going to gobble us up and hit us on the transition. So the worry for me there is we won't have anything to go forward with because of players being out injured, players who've been sold. We've been sold down the river with the Lath deal for me because it's disrupted the whole season. It disrupted the start of the season when he tried to get away on the last day of the transfer window. I don't think we fully recovered from that. I know he had a little purple patch and he did play quite well, and he was trying in games. People were saying, but trying's the minimum, you know. You've got to try. He worked hard. So what? Everybody works hard. Everybody works hard when they go to work in normal jobs, not being a footballer. So let's not praise him for that. Let's just praise him for doing his job, you know. But
how delighted were you, Graham, that he scored 2 on his debut for Atlanta United?
That's obvious, isn't it? He's got a new lease of life. I knew it was going to happen. He's irrelevant now. He's long gone. I'm still annoyed, honestly. I'm probably more annoyed at the situation rather than the individual. I'm sure he's a really nice guy. He's a good lad, and
Yeah.
It's just left a sour taste this season. This season was about building on what we had last season, and Latte Lath was electric for them last 15 games. You could see why his price rose so quickly. He was absolutely brilliant. He was the catalyst for everything I thought we should have done this season. And if there was no murmurs or rumours of him moving, we'd have been in a much healthier position. I think a lot of players have lost a little bit of respect with that January transfer window, and then later on in this current transfer window. I just think that the team's a little bit broken. You always need a leader, not necessarily a leader in terms of vocality or aggression, just someone with a presence. He was a big player for us, was Latte Lath, and he was ours, and we've happily handed him over to somebody else in a league which doesn't even compare to the Championship even. It's quite sad, really, but that's what it is. We've got to move on now. I'm sure Carrick didn't want him to move. So the rug's being pulled from underneath him as well. So I could sympathise with Carrick in terms of players being sold from underneath him. He didn't want Latte Lath to move. His project is broken. Now he's having to fix it with loan players who are out of form, players who pick and choose when they want to play, which is a massive worry, and players who aren't men. They aren't capable. They're too naive, they're too young, they're too inexperienced. Goes back to the situation of needing to bring in a leader. That's what he's not done. He's not addressed building from the back. And that would, if he did that, I think it would help him massively. But obviously the window's done now. We've got to play with what we've got. And
Graham, sorry, go on, finish. I was just going to say that we're just getting near the end of the podcast, and I just wanted to bring something in before we finish. Sorry to cut across you, but we had a little bit of a Twitter disagreement on X about the Middlesbrough anthem, the Middlesbrough run-out tune, and the result of the poll. I was in favour of Pig Bag. Obviously, you're not a fan of Pig Bag. You would like a change. I ended up winning the poll. 59% to 41 it was the final result. However, just to touch on that, because a lot of Middlesbrough fans like this type of thing, I've always been a fan of Pig Bag. For me, Middlesbrough haven't got a lot of stuff going on that seems to have been there for a long period of time, if that makes sense. It's the things that you cling to as a supporter, memories, history, things like that. And Pig Bag is synonymous with the Riverside for me. Since we moved to the Riverside, it's always been the run-out tune. It was picked by Brian Robson. It reminds me of the good old days and the Ravanellis and the Janinios and winning the Carling Cup and things like that, and being, lots of memories I've got of Pig Bag. Middlesbrough went away from it in the past and tried to change the tune to different things, Chris Rea and Steel River and different things, the power game and all the rest of it. It's never quite worked or sounded the same. But I still think the Riverside, when it's full and you've got 30,000, 35,000 people clapping when the teams come out, is as good a run-out tune as any. I really enjoy it. And sometimes it's the only time I clap during the game, to be honest. Lately, I clap up I clap a Pig Bag, and then the next thing I'm clapping my hands to try and warm them up when I'm going back to the car. But you've been posting different anthems from different clubs and things. So just state your case, because what we'll get is, after this podcast finishes, we'll get people in the comments commenting on Middlesbrough's run-out tune and Pig Bag, and they can state what they think on the comments after this podcast. Well, give me your reasons why you would like it changed.
I just want an anthem that, one, has some meaningful lyrics, simple lyrics that fans can actually sing and understand and remember. Clapping about like a seal going da 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 da, whatever. It's just pop nonsense, mate. You can't have that. It's garbage. That should be played in Flares or wherever, some other awful place, not at the Riverside. I know a lot of the younger fans appreciate it, but I'm a grumpy old man.
It's a 90s dance classic.
Yeah, but what clubs have you been going to, mate?
You don't want to know. Blue Oyster.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's just awful. It's probably synonymous with the whole Riverside experience, if I'm honest. I'm probably digging the song out a little bit, but I don't enjoy going to the Riverside. It's like going to the dentist now or something, or having a Monday morning meeting after a Sunday night out. It's just bad. The whole experience doesn't entertain me. It doesn't enamor me. I'm not in love with it. Hopefully I'll get back in love with it. But this season has just killed me so badly, honestly. So I've probably took my frustrations out on that particular song, but it is garbage, I'll be honest. So I suggested an old anthem where fans can join together in unity, scarves above their heads, a bit like the Hibs fans with the sunshine on Leith, or the Liverpool fans, Celtic fans with You Never Walk Alone. We don't have anything like that. It's turn up, watch garbage, go home, rinse and repeat for 23 games a season, pretty much. That's how I'm feeling at the moment. So I just want something where fans can unite and feel a bit of warmth, feel a bit of history about the club. Playing pigbag's not the history of the club. It's just 90s pop garbage. It really is. Get an anthem going. I don't care what it is, as long as we're all singing together with some lyrics.
Right, you've heard the man, Boro fans. Get your ideas in on the comments after the podcast. We might read a few out on next week's podcast if we get time. But that's it for another one, Graham. Thanks for coming on and having the chat with me and get my frustrations out. I hope Boro fans who are listening understand. We want to be positive. We want Middlesbrough to win. We want them to make the playoffs. But at the minute, we've just got to tell it like it is. But hopefully that'll change, because next week the Lucky Charm is back. Remember, Boro fans, John Cutler returns to the podcast. The three amigos are back next week. So tune in next week. And remember, don't say tickle Boro. Watch it, listen to it, and we'll be back next week. Up the Boro. Up the Boro. I predict when John's back, we'll go on an unbeaten run. Playoffs, here we come.